How do you react when a stranger says your full name in the lobby at work and shoves divorce papers and custody orders into your hands while your boss watches? Why did my husband wait until I had laughed in front of everyone about his pennies before he answered me with cold, legal words instead of a fight? I swore he was the petty one, until the moment I realized the joke was actually on me. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Marella Quince, and I never planned to marry a man who earns pennies. I did not say that on my wedding day, of course. Back then, I thought love was enough, or I told myself it was. But sitting in that little neighborhood restaurant, under cheap yellow lights and next to the sticky wall, it felt very clear to me that love did not pay for the life I wanted. It was Friday night. The place was full and loud. People were laughing, plates were clinking. There was this old song playing too low from a speaker in the corner. We sat at a small table near the window. Me, my husband Owen, my coworker Tasha, and two of our friends. I wore a new black dress that hugged me in all the right places. I had bought it after work, using the joint card. I decided I deserved it. Tasha asked how work was going. I said it was going amazing. I told her my boss Damien said I basically saved the quarter with my campaign idea. I said I might get a raise soon. I watched Owen's face when I said that. He smiled, but in that tight way he does when he feels like he is behind. He said he was happy for me. He asked how the students were doing, because he is a teacher, and that is his whole world. I said they were fine, but I did not ask more. I did not want to talk about kids and math and homework. I wanted to talk about big numbers, marketing budgets, future trips. Tasha wanted to hear about Damien. She asked if he really took us to that expensive rooftop bar last week, the one with the glass floor. I said he did, and I said he did not even look at the bill. I told them he just tapped his card and went back to talking about his next investment. I saw Tasha's eyes get wide, like a child looking at fireworks. Someone asked what Owen and I were doing for vacation this year. Owen said maybe a camping trip, something simple and cheap and good for Lila. He said she loved the forest last time. I felt my face heat up. Camping again, dirt again, cheap again. I laughed and shook my head. I said I did not know if my schedule would allow camping. I told them Damien had been talking about a team retreat somewhere nicer, maybe a beach hotel. I said it as if I was only sharing work news, but I knew how it sounded. Grown up, expensive, different. One of our friends looked at Owen and asked, very politely, how much teachers make these days. Owen gave a normal answer, something about the pay scale. I watched his hands. He rubbed his thumb over the edge of his glass, slow and careful. That nervous habit always makes me feel annoyed, like he is small. I laughed. It came out louder than I planned. I said his salary was basically pennies, next to what Damien earned. I said my boss could give me everything if he wanted to. I stretched the word everything. I saw Tasha put her hand over her mouth and laugh too. One of the guys at the table pulled out his phone. I assumed he was checking messages. I did not care. Owen went quiet. He looked at me for a long second, like he was trying to see if I was joking. I knew what he wanted. He wanted me to say I was kidding. He wanted me to touch his arm and say I did not mean it. But I did mean it. So I just smiled and took a sip of my drink. He asked why I had to say that in front of everyone. I told him he was being too sensitive. I said it was just banter and that everyone jokes about money. I said if he wanted different jokes, he could always get a better job. The table went a little silent. Then Tasha changed the subject to some silly meme. I could feel the tension, but I also felt powerful. For once, I was the one on top. Inside, I told myself I was helping him. I thought maybe if he heard the truth in public, he would finally get serious about earning more. I said to myself that respect follows results, and right now he did not have results. I had the job with a future, I had the boss who saw something in me. I did not see why I should pretend that the gap did not exist. Tasha leaned close and asked in a low voice if Damien ever made moves on me. I rolled my eyes in a playful way. I said Damien was very generous and liked to spoil his team, and I left it there. It was not a lie. It was also not the whole story. But I decided that since I was not sleeping with Damien, it was not really cheating. A few late nights at the office, a hand on my back when we walked out, a ride in his car instead of the bus. These things were normal. At least that is what I told myself. Owen paid his half of the bill in cash. He always does that. I told him he should just put it on the card like the rest of us. I said that was why I handled most of the money, because he acted like it was still the past. He said he did not want to run up debt. I told him you have to spend to grow. When we stepped outside, the air was colder than I expected. I hugged my coat around me. Tasha showed me her phone. She had recorded a short clip of me laughing about pennies, and my boss could give me everything. In the video, my voice sounded sharper, but I still thought I looked good. My hair caught the light from the sign behind me. My eyes looked bright and confident. I told her to send it to me. She said she had already posted it in our friend group story. Owen saw the screen for half a second. He did not say anything. He just put his hands in his pockets and looked down the street. I told him not to be so moody. I said people post worse things every day. I said no one cared about our little joke. On the way home in the car, he drove in silence. Lila was with his parents for the night, so it was just us. I tried to talk about work. I said Damien might take us to a fancy hotel for the team if the numbers kept rising. I said maybe I would finally see what a real suite looks like. Owen asked if spouses were invited. I said probably not, and I laughed. I said it was a work thing, not a family camping trip. His jaw tightened again. He asked if I was happy. I told him I was trying to be, but it was hard when I felt like the only one pushing our life forward. I said he was comfortable earning what he earned and calling it noble, but that did not pay for Lila's future. I told him somebody had to think bigger. When we got home, he went straight to the small desk in the corner of the living room. He opened his laptop. I walked past, still scrolling through my phone, checking how many people had watched Tasha's clip. Over his shoulder, I saw a clean spreadsheet on the screen, open and waiting. There were dates in one column already. Our restaurant name, the rooftop bar, a few other lines. At the top of the window was the word household. He saw me glance and closed it quickly. He said he was just getting organized. I laughed and said he was being dramatic about money again. I told him he should worry less and trust that my boss and my job would take us where we needed to go. I said we were a team, but honestly, I felt like I was the only real player. I went to bed that night feeling a strange mix of thrill and boredom. I was bored with Owen's worry and his careful hands and his calm voice. I was thrilled by the idea that someone like Damien saw me as special. I did not think about the spreadsheet or the way Owen's eyes had gone flat at the restaurant, or the way he watched me when I said the word everything. I told myself I was still the good one. I told myself I was just being honest. On Monday, I woke up with that strange mix of nerves and excitement that I always get before a big work event. Our company was having a launch party that night on the rooftop bar downtown. I love those nights. The city lights, the music, the way people looked at me when I stood near Damien and talked about numbers and campaigns. It felt like I was already living the life I deserved. At breakfast, Owen sat at the table with his laptop open, checking something for school. Lila was drawing with crayons. I was putting on my makeup at the counter. Owen said he might be late that night because there was a staff meeting. I told him he should come to the launch party instead, because it was important to support my career sometimes too. He answered that he would try. I could tell from his tone that he did not want to go. Crowds make him nervous. He likes quiet rooms and small groups. But I told myself that if he loved me, he would come and stand by my side. I thought if he saw me up there with Damien, He would finally understand the difference between his little teacher life and my future. At work, Tasha came to my desk and asked if I had seen our friend's story from Friday. She showed me the clip of me laughing about Owen's salary being pennies and my boss being able to give me everything. More people had watched it now. A few coworkers had reacted with laughing emojis. I felt a small flash of guilt, but I pushed it away. I told myself it was just a joke and that people knew how couples talked. Damien passed by and put a hand lightly on my shoulder as he asked how the final campaign numbers looked. I told him they looked great and that we were ready. He said the rooftop party would be our victory lap. I felt warm all over. I noticed one of the junior staff staring at his hand on my shoulder, but I pretended not to see it. By afternoon, everyone was getting ready. People went to the bathroom in pairs to fix their hair. Someone brought out a small mirror and a curling iron. I changed into my fitted dress and heels. When I looked in the office window, my reflection looked sharper, more polished, more like the women I see in success videos. I told myself I was not going to let anyone pull me back down to the level of camping trips and cheap dinners. Near the end of the day, I passed Owen's contact on my phone and sent him the address again, with a note that he really should come. He answered that he would be there, but maybe a bit late. I thought it was typical of him not to take it as seriously as I did. The rooftop bar was everything I loved. Glass floor panels with the city lights below, soft music, waiters walking around with trays of small fancy food I could not even name. People in good clothes and real watches. I felt like I had finally stepped into the world I belonged in. Damien gave a short speech about growth and innovation. Then he turned to me and mentioned my name, saying that my campaign had pushed the numbers over the line this quarter. People clapped. He raised his glass toward me. I felt everyone's eyes on me. I searched for Owen in the crowd and saw him near the edge of the deck, holding a drink, looking a little lost, like he was standing at the wrong party. After the speech, people came over to congratulate me. Tasha hugged me and said she always knew I would be the one to move up. Someone asked if Owen was proud of his wife, now that she was saving quarters and killing it in marketing. I glanced at him. He smiled, but it was the polite smile he uses for strangers. Damien came over and stood close. He said that I had done amazing work and that we would talk about my future at the company soon. He added something about next steps and bigger responsibilities. I took that as a clear sign that a raise was coming. I leaned into that moment. I needed Owen to hear every word. When the group thinned, Owen walked nearer. He told me quietly that he felt out of place. I told him he should be happy for me and not make this about how he felt. I said that this was my chance to climb and that I needed a partner who could stand beside me. He said he had always tried to support me. I answered that support was not just words, it was also being at my level. Tasha joined us with another drink for me and asked how it felt to be the star of the night. I laughed and said it felt like being finally seen. One of the sales guys joked that soon Damien would pay me more in bonuses than my husband made in a year. The group laughed. I saw Tasha pull out her phone again, ready for another clip. I could have stopped there, but the attention felt too good. I said, in a clear voice, that compared to Damien's money, Owen's teacher salary was basically pennies. I added that my boss could give me everything if he wanted to. I stretched out the word again. Everything. I knew people heard. I saw some of them glance at Owen. Owen's face changed. It did not twist or explode. It just went blank. He asked me why I had to say that in front of everyone. I replied that it was just the truth, and that grown-ups should be able to handle the truth. I said if he did not want me to compare, he should step up his game. He fell silent. Damien gave a little half-smile, the kind you give when you do not want to be too involved. He said something about teachers being important, then turned the talk back to the campaign. I knew he did not want trouble. I also knew that my words had already done enough damage. Later, as the night went on, I drifted in and out of groups. I stood near Damien while he talked business with some partners. I could feel Owen's eyes on me from across the rooftop. People kept coming up to say how lucky I was to have a boss who believed in me. I heard one of them say that if he were my husband, he would be nervous too. I pretended not to hear. When things were winding down, Damien told me that he had ordered a car to take me home, since it was late. He said it was safer that way. Owen walked up at that moment and asked if we could just take our own car and go together. I told him the company ride was already paid for and that he should not make a scene. I said he could meet me at home. He looked at me, then at Damien, then just nodded. On the sidewalk outside, the city air felt cool and sharp. The car pulled up. Tasha hugged me goodbye, whispering that I was playing in a bigger league now. As I got into the car, I glanced back. Owen stood a little away from the door, his shoulders tight. When I finally reached home, he was already there. Lila was asleep at his parents' house again. The apartment felt strangely clean and empty. Owen sat at the small desk, his laptop open. A soft glow lit his face. When I stepped closer, I saw his calendar on the screen. He had made a new event. It was titled, Meeting, Personal, set for Wednesday morning. I asked him what that meant. He said it was something he needed to take care of, and that he would explain later. I told him he was being dramatic. I said he should focus on being proud of me, not scheduling secret meetings. He replied that he was proud of me for working hard, but that some things had gone too far. I answered that if anyone was going too far, it was him, with this cold attitude. I said he was trying to guilt-trip me because I had finally found people who saw my value. He closed the laptop without another word and went to the bedroom. I lay on the couch for a while, scrolling through new videos from the party. There I was, next to Damien, laughing under the city lights, with Owen blurred in the background. I thought I looked like I belonged up there. I did not like how small Owen looked in those clips. I told myself that was not my fault. A few days after the rooftop party, we went to Owen's parents' house for dinner. I did not want to go, honestly. I was tired from work, and I had a big report to finish. But Ruth had been asking to see Lila, and Owen said it was important. He said family dinners kept us grounded. I felt like I had been grounded enough all my life. On the drive over, Lila sat in the back with her stuffed rabbit, humming. Owen drove, quiet as usual. He asked if I could stay off my phone for the evening and just be present. I told him I was always present and that checking a message now and then was normal. He said it was just one dinner. I told him some of us had jobs that did not stop at 4 p.m. Ruth and Malcolm lived in a small house in a calm street. The grass was neat, the porch light warm. It was the kind of place people retire to. It was fine, but it also reminded me of staying in one place forever. That thought made my chest feel tight. Ruth opened the door and hugged Lila first, then Owen, then me. She said I looked tired and asked if work was too much. I told her work was going great, that we were growing fast, that Damien said this year could be a big leap. I made sure to say his name. I wanted them all to hear it and know I was connected to someone who mattered. At the table, the food was simple. Roast chicken, potatoes, salad. It smelled good. Ruth always cooked well. We sat down, and for a while, conversation stayed light. Malcolm asked Lila about school. She said she liked art class. Owen smiled at her and asked about her drawing. They talked about a project with leaves. Erin showed up a bit late, with a store-bought dessert in her work bag. She said there had been some issue at her office, something about payroll. She teased Owen that at least teachers get paid on time. He gave a small laugh. She sat across from me and watched me more than she watched her plate. Ruth asked about my job again. She said she had seen some post I shared about the rooftop party. Tasha had tagged me in a clip where Damien raised his glass in my direction. Ruth said it looked fancy. I felt a little burst of pride. I said it was a launch celebration and that Damien made a big deal about my campaign. Malcolm asked what a campaign was exactly, in simple terms. I explained it, but I used more important-sounding words on purpose. I wanted them to see I had moved into a different world. I told them about big numbers and conversions and digital strategy. I said, Damien trusted me with big accounts now. Then, because I could feel the attention on me, I went a step too far. I said that sometimes when Damien took us out for lunch, his tip was more than a whole day of a teacher's pay. I laughed like it was a fun fact. The table went a little quiet. Owen's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Ruth's eyes moved from me to her son. She asked if I really needed to say it that way. Her voice was soft but firm. I replied that it was just reality, that I was not going to pretend otherwise. I said someone in this marriage had to think about bigger money. Owen said he did think about money. He said he picked a job that mattered. I answered that a job could matter and still pay more than Pennies. Erin tilted her head slightly and asked how Damien treated his staff. She said she had seen some stories about bosses who blurred lines. Her tone sounded careful, like she was trying not to accuse me. I smiled and said Damien was very generous and supportive, that he saw potential in people and invested in them. I told her he believed in my value, which was more than I could say for some others. I let that hang in the air. Ruth reached for my hand and said they did value me, but that joking about Owen's pay hurt him. She said a marriage was supposed to be a partnership, not a scoreboard. I pulled my hand back and said, maybe if people around me were less scared of big numbers, they would understand the scoreboard better. I said, respect follows results, and I was bringing in results now. Owen stared down at his plate. He did not argue. That almost annoyed me more than if he had raised his voice. I wanted some fire from him, some proof I still got to him. Instead, he chewed slowly, drank some water, and said he would help Ruth clear the dishes later. The calm way he spoke felt like a wall. After dinner, Lila went to the living room with Malcolm to watch a cartoon. Ruth and I stood in the kitchen, putting dishes in the sink. She told me that marriage had hard seasons and that money stress could twist people. I said money was not the problem, small dreams were. She frowned. She asked if there was anything going on with my boss that Owen should worry about. I said no, that people today were too paranoid. I told her I was not a child. In the hallway, I saw Erin talking quietly with Owen. She asked if he was okay. He said he was fine, and that work had been busy. Erin did not look convinced. She asked him if he had seen that video from the restaurant, the one where I laughed about pennies and my boss could give me everything. He said he had. His voice was flat. I watched them from the doorway. Erin put a hand on his arm. She said he did not deserve to be mocked in public like that. She mentioned, in a cautious way, that if things kept going like this, he might want to keep records, just to protect himself and Lila. Owen glanced toward me and then away. He said quietly that he was already taking care of it. When we were leaving, Malcolm helped Owen load a box into the car. I asked what it was. Owen said it was just some old papers he had stored at his parents' house. The box looked too small for anything important, but I noticed a neat label on the side, Archive A. The words were written in his straight, careful handwriting. That kind of thing is so like him, naming boxes, making his own little system. I almost laughed. In the car, Lila fell asleep almost at once. Owen drove with both hands on the wheel. The streetlight slid across his face in lines of light and shadow. I scrolled through my phone again. One of our friends had reposted the rooftop video. I watched myself in it for the 10th time. There I was, laughing next to Damien, my hand brushing his arm by accident. Owen was in the corner of the frame, small and out of focus. Owen said he wished I would not post so much about our money situation. I told him no one even knew what we really made. I said people only cared about the story, and the story was that I was climbing. He answered that the story also had a real impact on how people looked at him, and on what Lila might hear one day. I told him he was being dramatic again. When we got home, he carried Lila to bed. I stood in the hallway and watched. He moved gently, tucking her in, brushing her hair from her face. For a second, I felt something like guilt. Then I told myself I was doing all this for her future. Maybe one day she would thank me for choosing a life of more than pennies. Later, when he came back to the living room, I saw him take a small USB drive from his pocket and slide it into the laptop. A window opened with folders. I could not read the names from where I stood, but I recognized the neat lines. He clicked around, then dragged something into a folder called Archive A. I joked that he was turning into a spy with all his secret files. He said calmly that he was just organizing our household, nothing more. I smiled and said he was free to manage the boring details as long as I handled the big moves. In my mind, it made perfect sense. He could keep his little files. I had Damien, the rooftop parties, the promise of everything. I did not see that those small files were already starting to shape my future more than any party could. Lila's birthday came faster than I expected. Work was busy, Damien was pushing for a new project, and I had barely thought about party details. Owen, of course, had made a spreadsheet for the guest list, the cake order, the time slots. He printed it and put it on the fridge like it was a school schedule. The party was at a community hall near the park. It was one of those wide, echoing rooms with folding tables, plastic chairs, and bright paper banners. Cheap, but fine. I told myself it was temporary, that one day we would have her parties in hotel ballrooms, or at least in a nicer venue. For now, I let Owen handle most of it, and I focused on looking good. I wore a fitted dress that was a little too nice for a kid's party. I told myself I needed to represent our future level. Owen wore his usual jeans and a plain shirt. He pushed tables together, taped balloons, checked the playlist. Lila ran around with her little friends, her hair in pigtails, her face already sticky from juice. Parents started arriving, some from her class, some from the neighborhood. They brought gifts in colorful bags and smiled politely. A few of the moms followed me on social media, so they had seen the rooftop party clips. One of them commented that my job looked glam. I nodded and said it was hard work but worth it. I could feel them comparing our lives with theirs. Then Damien's gift arrived. A courier came in carrying a huge, shiny box with a silver ribbon. It looked like something from a movie. On top was a card with Damien's name written in that confident, sharp handwriting. The mums noticed. One of them asked if that was from my boss. I said yes, in a casual voice, like it was normal for my boss to send oversized gifts to my child's birthday. Owen's face went stiff when he saw the card. He asked quietly if that was necessary. I told him he should be grateful that someone cared enough to be generous. I said teachers' gifts were nice, but this was a different level. He looked like he wanted to argue, but he did not. He just moved the box to the gift table and went back to setting out cups. The kids screamed when we opened the present. It was an expensive, flashy playset, with many pieces and lights, something that cost far more than anything Owen or I had bought. Lila jumped up and down. She asked who it was from. I said it was from Mommy's boss, who was very smart and kind and liked to help our family. I caught the look Owen gave me, but I pretended not to see it. Later, while the kids were playing, I stood with a group of moms near the snack table. Someone pulled out her phone and mentioned that she had seen a funny video of me the other day. She tapped the screen, and suddenly I heard my own voice, louder than the music in the hall. It was the clip from the restaurant. On the small screen, I was laughing, saying Owen's salary was pennies and that my boss could give me everything. Everything. My laugh sounded harsh in the big room. A couple of moms looked over at Owen, who was helping Lila with a balloon game on the other side of the hall. One mom put her hand over her mouth. Another tried to smile, like it was awkward, but not her business. I felt heat rush to my face, but I forced a laugh. I said people took everything so seriously these days, and that couples joked around. I said it was a running joke between us. It was not, but I needed to say something. Owen walked over at that moment, carrying a tray of cupcakes. He heard his own name in the video and glanced at the phone. His face went pale. He asked the mom very calmly if he could see it. She handed the phone to him. He watched the clip without a word, then passed it back. He did not raise his voice. He did not make a scene. He simply said that maybe the video did not need to be shared again. I told him he was overreacting. I said it was just a clip in a private group. The mum corrected me, saying the video had been forwarded around the parent chat a few times. She said it lightly, but the meaning was clear. People had been watching and talking. Owen looked at me then, really looked. He asked quietly why I kept saying those things in front of other people. I said, maybe if he stopped acting like money did not matter, I would stop saying it. I said, I was tired of pretending his salary was enough when it wasn't. I added that at least Damien understood my value. One of the moms shifted her weight, like she wanted to move away. Another glanced toward the kids, clearly uncomfortable. Owen noticed. He took a breath and asked if they could excuse us. Then he led me a few steps aside, near the door to the kitchen. He said this was Lila's day, and that he did not want her party to turn into another performance. He asked me, still in that quiet voice, to please stop humiliating him in front of people. I told him he was making himself pathetic by using words like humiliating. I said he should be grateful I was even still here, with the options I had. He blinked slowly, like he was trying to keep control of something inside him. Then he said he heard me, and that he would not forget these words. It sounded like a promise, not a threat. That bothered me more than if he had shouted. Lila ran over then, grabbing his hand. She asked why Mommy and Daddy were mad again. Owen crouched down and told her they were just talking loudly and that she should go enjoy her cake. I stood there, watching my daughter trust him without question. It made me feel small for a second. To push that feeling away, I went to my phone. Tasha had sent me a message. She wrote that one of the moms from Lila's class had followed her and liked the old Pennies video. She added a laughing emoji, like it was funny that my words were getting around. I told myself that attention was still attention. After the cake and games, parents started to leave. Some said thank you, some smiled politely at me, but there was a new distance in their eyes. I knew the look. It was the look people gave when they had heard too much about someone's private life. When most people were gone, Damien called. I walked out into the parking lot to take it. He asked how the party went. I told him his gift was the star of the show and that people were impressed. He laughed and said it was nothing. He asked if Owen had been cool about it. I said that Owen had feelings, but he would get over them. Damien did not answer right away. Then he said that he did not want trouble and that I should manage things at home. I said I was managing fine. As I stood by the car, I noticed the tiny red light on the dash cam Owen had installed months ago. It blinked steadily. I knew it recorded when the car was on, but I never thought about how many small pieces of our life it had already captured. Fights, phone calls, long silences. I shrugged it off. Owen liked his little gadgets. We drove home with Lila in the back seat, sticky and tired, hugging a balloon. Owen asked how she felt. She said the party was fun and that she loved the big gift from Mommy's boss. The way she said it made my skin prickle. Owen's hands tightened on the wheel, but he did not say anything to her. Instead, he told her that Daddy's present would stay at home and that they would play with it together later. After we dropped Lila at his parents' for a sleepover, we returned to the apartment. The place was quiet. I kicked off my shoes and went to the kitchen. On the counter, next to a small stack of neatly arranged papers, was a yellow sticky note. On it, in Owen's careful handwriting, were 3 words: "Bring forms, 10:30. I assumed it was something boring, like school insurance or a bank appointment. I rolled my eyes and thought he was overdoing it with his organization phase. I did not ask what forms he meant. I did not ask what meeting he had at 10:30. I told myself it was just another sign that he was stuck in small details, while I was busy reaching for everything. Owen started sleeping in the guest room the week after Lila's party. He did not make a big speech about it. One night he took his pillow and a folded blanket and went down the hallway. I heard the click of the door. That was it. No fight, no long talk, just distance. At first I thought it was just for one night. Then the pillow stayed there. In the mornings, we moved around each other like polite strangers. He made Lila's breakfast and packed her little lunchbox. I checked my emails and put on my makeup. When he asked if I could bring home more milk next time, I said he could buy milk himself. He answered that he would add it to his list. His calm tone made me feel like I was the one being silly. One Tuesday, I saw his phone on the counter while he was in the bathroom. A calendar alert popped up. Meeting, personal, Wednesday 10:30. That was the same note I had seen on the sticky by the papers. I thought about clicking into it, but I told myself I did not need to spy. If it was important, he would tell me, and if it was not important, then it did not matter. At work, Tasha asked if things at home were weird. I told her Owen was being cold because he felt threatened by my success. I said men like him wanted wives to stay small. She said she kind of understood. That change was hard for some guys. Then she added in a softer voice that she had seen the way he looked at me at the party. She said he had looked hurt. I shrugged and said, sometimes people had to get hurt before they grew. Damien called me into his office that afternoon. He thanked me again for my work and hinted at a new project. He said he wanted someone he trusted at his side. I took that as another sign. He asked if things at home were okay. I laughed and said marriages always had adjustment phases when one partner leveled up. He nodded but did not push. I liked that. He did not try to fix me. He just took me as I was. Wednesday morning, Owen left earlier than usual. He wore a clean button-down shirt instead of his normal casual sweater. He told Lila he would pick her up from school later and that Grandma would help in the afternoon. I asked where he was going. He said he had a personal meeting, the one on his calendar. I rolled my eyes and said it sounded very mysterious. He answered that some things were just private. The word private made me angry. I said I thought we did not keep secrets in this house. He raised his eyebrows slightly, like he wanted to say something but stopped himself. Then he just said he would be back before dinner. After he left, I could not stop thinking about it. I imagined it was maybe a therapist or some boring financial advisor. I told myself he was finally taking his anxiety to a professional instead of putting it on me. I decided that was good. If he got help, maybe he would stop pouting about my jokes. At lunchtime, my mother called. She asked how the party went and if Damien had liked his gift idea. I told her he had not come himself, but had sent a big present. She laughed and said that was still a sign he cared. Then she asked about Owen. I said he was sulking, sleeping in the guest room, acting like the victim. She said men like that were lucky when a woman like me stayed. She said I needed to think about my prime years. Her words wrapped around me like sugar. That evening, Owen came home with a folder in his hand. He put it straight into the locked drawer in the living room cabinet, the one where he kept our passports. I heard the little click of the lock. I asked what it was. He said it was just some paperwork he needed to keep safe. I told him he was acting like a secret agent, with his folders and his meetings. He replied that he was just taking care of household matters. The way he said it made me feel like he was talking about something bigger. In bed that night, alone in our main room, I scrolled through social media. Someone had posted another clip from the rooftop party. This one showed me and Damien standing close while he toasted to "the brains on my team." In the background, Owen was out of focus again, holding a drink, looking small. I read a comment from one woman. If I were her husband, I'd be worried. I told myself she was jealous. The next few days, Owen stayed polite. Too polite. He spoke to me about schedules. Who would pick up Lila? Who would buy groceries? When the bills were due? He stopped asking me how work was. He did not comment on my new clothes or my late nights. The silence made me feel loose, untethered. I wanted a reaction, so I pushed. One night after dinner, I told him that Damien had suggested a possible team retreat at a resort a few hours away. I said we might stay for a few nights. He asked if spouses were invited. I said probably not, that it was a work event for people who actually moved numbers. He went very still and asked if I planned to share a room with my boss. I laughed and said he was being ridiculous, that the company would handle it. I added that if he trusted me, he would not ask questions like that. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said that trust was not a magic word you could just say after smashing it over and over. I shot back that if he made more than pennies, maybe I would not be tempted by other options. The moment I said it, I knew it was cruel, but I left it there. I did not take it back. He did not yell. He did not throw anything. He simply said he heard me clearly. Then he went to the guest room and closed the door. The quiet hit me harder than any name he could have called me. Over the weekend, he took Lila to his parents' house for most of the day. He asked if I wanted to join them. I said I had reports to work on and that Damien might need me to review some things. Really, I just did not want to sit in that cozy living room and feel their silent judgment. When they left, the apartment felt huge and empty. I spent the afternoon messaging Tasha and trying on different outfits in the mirror. I took a few selfies and posted one with a caption about not settling for less. The likes came in fast. It made me feel better. Online, people saw me as the main character, not the woman with the teacher husband and the locked drawers. Later that week, I had to drop off some documents at a building downtown for a client. I parked the car in the garage and walked toward the entrance, heels clicking on the concrete. As I came around the corner, I saw Owen. He was standing outside a glass door on the ground floor of another building, talking to a man in a suit. The man held a slim leather folder. They shook hands in a formal way. Owen's posture was straight, his face calm. He did not look like my soft, nervous teacher in that moment. He looked steady. I ducked back behind a pillar, watching. They spoke for a few more seconds. I could not hear the words, but I saw the man nod. Owen took a small stack of papers from him and slipped them into his bag. Then, the man walked away. When Owen turned, he spotted me. For a second, surprise flashed across his face. Then he adjusted his expression and walked over. I asked what he was doing there. I tried to sound casual but heard the sharp edge in my own voice. He said he had a personal meeting, like he had told me. I asked if that was his lawyer. He did not answer that directly. He said he had been getting advice and that he planned to handle everything properly now. The word properly hung between us. I laughed and said he could not even afford a real lawyer. I told him this was childish, that if he had a problem, we should just talk like adults. He looked at me with a strange mix of sadness and distance. He said he had tried to talk many times, but I had turned every talk into a joke or an insult. He added that from now on, things would not be about jokes. They would be about facts and decisions. I told him he was trying to scare me. He shook his head. He said he was simply done arguing. Then he checked the time on his watch, said he had to pick up Lila, and walked past me toward the parking lot. I stood there on the sidewalk, holding my folder, watching his back retreat. For the first time, a small, cold thought moved through me. Maybe he was actually serious. The day it all hit me, I walked into the office lobby, thinking Damien and HR wanted to talk about my promotion. A man I didn't know said my full name, loud. He handed me a thick envelope right in front of the front desk, my coworkers, and Damien. Inside were divorce papers, a temporary custody plan, giving Owen school days with Lila, and printouts of my own videos, where I laughed about his pennies. Owen stood there with his lawyer and my in-laws. He said I could contact him through my lawyer now, then turned and walked away.